Monday, welcome to a brand new week, and I'm not even going to allow him to try and irritate me because Chris Gibbons has just got back from Kruger, and Chris, I don't want to hear about wild dog and leopard and all the rest of it because it'll just make me absolutely green with envy. Nice to have you back with us, courtesy of Capital Legacy, your number one provider of wills and estate administration. You're looking well, sir, after your break.
Thank you, Jeremy. Always good to get to Kruger, as you well know. There's never a bad day in Kruger. Some days are just better than others, and then occasionally you hit an absolutely epic day. And we had one of those actually a week ago today. Absolutely off the charts in terms of what we saw.
Ah, good. I'm glad. Absolutely wonderful. Now, listen, there's a new report out, Chris, that says South Africa is heading for, let me get this wording right, for lower middle income status. What does that mean, and what are the implications here?
Jeremy, yes, this comes from a model developed by a Johannesburg-based advisory firm called Unomics Business and Economics. The model shows the country's political and economic decline is accelerating, and we risk becoming a lower middle income nation by 2028. And that's a forecast which has been brought forward 2 years from their last assessment, which was done in 2020. In essence, it highlights the failure of the ANC to accelerate economic growth. The model shows that in the year 2000, this nation's per capita income was on par with the global average and twice that of middle income nations. By 2020, per capita income had plunged to 3/4 of the world average and was below that of middle income peers. What are the implications, you ask? Well, Unomics says the effect is just the same as under apartheid. The black majority is excluded. Then suppression was used to enforce the model. Now, says Unomics, the ANC has created the world's largest welfare state by some measures. And as a result, the consultancy says we are now facing the high probability of economic collapse. And we're looking at the beginning of shrinkage in the economy to become like those of Greece and Argentina, heaven forbid. Throw into the mix a contracting tax base, pedestrian economic growth, misguided policies like the current drive towards protectionism, coupled to rising discontent and increasing violence. We are well on the way to becoming a failed state.
Is there anything we could do to turn this around?
Oh, indeed, yes. Unomics says that South Africa is in the tremendously lucky position that we have many low-hanging fruits. Sectors like energy, including natural gas, transport infrastructure, and agribusiness have vast potential. All we need are some simple steps to clarify policy and implement basic measures which would immediately lead to investment and thus jobs and growth. Who's going to do it?
Well, similar sentiments from a poll of economists by Bloomberg.
Yeah, 16 of 18 economists, Jeremy, polled by Bloomberg at the end of last week, said they felt we could regain investment grade status within the next 10 years. Now, that's premised on the country's renewed commitment to fiscal consolidation, some windfall mining revenue, and an upward revision to GDP. The poll was taken ahead of the scheduled reassessment of the country's credit rating last Friday evening. In the event, both S&P and Moody's chose not to issue a report. That's their way of saying, you know what, nothing's actually changed. S&P has us 3 rungs beneath investment grade with a stable outlook. Moody's has us 2 rungs below with a negative outlook. Fitch has us 3 rungs below with a negative outlook as well. So in my opinion, unless some people, government puts pedal to the metal big time in terms of accelerating the structural reforms needed by this economy, the possibility of regaining the investment grade rating in the next 10 years is nil.
And not being helped in any way by sabotage at Eskom.
Well, not a bit of it, obviously. In case you missed it over the weekend, Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter says Eskom has found evidence of sabotage at the Letabo power station on Wednesday evening of last week. He says stays attached to pylon power lines were deliberately cut, causing the line itself to trip. Nothing was stolen from the site, nor were there any signs of corrosion or metal fatigue. In other words, said de Ruyter, this was not an economic crime, it was a deliberate act of sabotage. Letabo, South Africa's most reliable power station, had it failed, we would have been straight into level 6 load shedding, no question.
Chris, who's benefiting from something like sabotage at Eskom?
Jeremy, that is the million-dollar question, or should that be multi-billion rand question? The obvious answer, I think, is that there's a network of corruption and patronage at Eskom that was established during the state capture era and which wants to get people like De Ruyter out of the way so it can return to business as usual. And that's certainly what De Ruyter himself believes, and he said as much on Friday evening. Business Day quotes him this morning as saying the notion that state capture ended when the Guptas flew out of South Africa is a myth. He also described a web of committees and subcommittees at Eskom, all of which look as though they're governing properly, doing all the right things in terms of governance, whereas they're just panels of chommies looking out for each other's interests. Another big problem, according to De Ruyter, is the difficulty of firing someone from a state-owned enterprise.
Let's change tack here a bit. Low-cost airline Mango. It looks like it's day over.
Certainly seems that way, Jeremy. This is a story originally published in the Citizen newspaper. It says that a meeting of creditors scheduled for last week was postponed. Mango's business rescue practitioner, Sipho Sono, says the original rescue plan for Mango has now been shelved, needs to be reworked to suit SAA and its ultimate shareholder, the Department of Public Enterprises. And this, says Sono, is because government refuses to use bailout money to get Mango back into the sky. Given that Mango is a wholly owned subsidiary of SAA, I still don't fully understand why all of this wasn't sorted out during the SAA business rescue process, but it wasn't. So there you have it. However, we now have a situation where SAA is slowly re-emerging with almost a new investment partner called Takatso. But here's the rub. Takatso already has a low-cost airline founded by Gidon Novik, who started Kulula.com. Fairly obviously, although no one's saying so publicly, there's no room in this new structure for another low-cost carrier, Mango. So goodbye, Mango. Sipho Sono says Mango will now be mothballed for a considerable period. You can take that to mean forever. And by the way, we're still waiting for that Takatso SAA deal to be closed. Announced in June, we're many months down the line there. I wonder if there's a question mark.
Okay, one good news story, Chris. Tencent invests 745 million rand in a company called, is it Ozo?
Ozo.
Okay.
Ozo, yeah. The country has had a number of successes in fintech, Jeremy, as I'm sure you're aware. This is the latest. Ozo is a payments company which allows customers direct access to their bank accounts to make payments. When you buy something online, you can do a direct payment via Ozo, which of course keeps you away from that credit card and all those pesky interest rates. Ozo says it's adding 140,000 users and processing transactions worth some 100 million US every month. All in all, it now has some 6 million users. It's just completed its fourth round of funding, leading the way, as you mentioned, Chinese internet giant Tencent, which has ponied up 48 million US dollars, 745 million ZAR. Ozo says it plans to use the cash to hunt for acquisitions, as well as to start services in Namibia, Ghana, Kenya, and Nigeria. Now that's going to be interesting because Nigeria in particular, but also Ghana and Kenya, already have some very effective online payment solutions.
Yeah, the rand taking a bit of strain, eh?
Oh, yeah, just a bit. Trading around the 775, 780 mark at the moment against the dollar. We're down nearly 8% against the dollar so far this year. A couple of reasons. Turkey, first of all, is playing silly buggers with its interest rates. That is spreading contagion to a host of other emerging market currencies like the rand. Second, the dollar itself is just getting stronger. 123 to the euro at the start of the year, now 113. That's on the back of the end to America's massive bond buying program, as well as rising inflation. Take heart though, the JSE's at the moment share index is now up 18% on the year to date.
Finally, I see that while you were in Kruger, you obviously did a bit of reading. Sounds fascinating, this one. An autobiography of the man who reinvented the vacuum cleaner business by the name of James Dyson.
That is Sir James Dyson to you, Jeremy.
Right,
no wonder. He's built a global empire and become the fourth richest man in Britain. Book's called Invention, A Life by James Dyson. I have to say, it's a cracking read. Back in the 1970s, inventor, entrepreneur James Dyson invented the dual cyclone bagless vacuum cleaner, which has become a vast worldwide success. Along the way, he's also designed numerous other household devices built an enormous agricultural business, and, just by the by, founded his own university, the Dyson Institute of Engineering and Technology. And those are just the main headlines from a long and varied list of achievements, which also include that multi-billion-pound fortune and, happily, a very strong and long-lasting marriage and family. Now, all too often, as you be aware, books of this nature are mere hagiographies, with page after page of groveling and extolling the virtues of the great man or woman. Not so in this case. Yes, there's a professional writer collaborating with Dyson, but his distinctive voice comes through loud and clear, as does his approach to design, to engineering, business, and latterly, as his firms become more and more successful, to education. We also get fascinating insights into Britain's continuing disdain for that grubby business of manufacturing, the sheer dumb stupidity of certain British politicians, some of whom are still very much in the present government, and Dyson's reasons for backing Brexit. And that last certainly gave me a very different and more cogent view on a subject I thought had been exhausted. So what was the magic bullet for Dyson? The realization that an ordinary vacuum cleaner with a bag loses suction and therefore efficiency as that bag fills up. None of the big vacuum cleaner makers were interested in changing the model because selling those bags is very big business, very profitable. At the center of invention, though, is Dyson's sheer grit, his determination to succeed, even through some extremely tough times. How determined? Well, famously, he made 5,127 prototypes of that very first bagless Dyson vacuum cleaner before getting it to work properly. 5,127. Most of us, I think, would have quit around the 100 mark. There's also a determination to hang on to his entire business after being burned by shareholders in an earlier venture. Dyson, massive, global, still 100% family owned. Invention, one of those very few business titan how I did it autobiographies from which I have learned a very great deal. Thank you, Sir James. Jeremy, the book once again is called Invention, A Life. James Dyson is the writer, Simon & Schuster UK, the publisher, and it'll cost you 380 Rand.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for the insight into that book as well. We'll chat with you next week, once again, right here on Mansfield Today. Have a good week.
Thank you, and you.
Bye-bye, and bye-bye to you as well.